Next is Michael Yin.
Members of the board, Superintendent Smith. Great. Members of the board, Superintendent Smith, good evening. And to everyone who came out tonight, thank you for being here. This is how we make change in our county. It's a pleasure to be here representing MCR, the Montgomery County Regional SGA, and MoCo's 160,000 students. I'm Michael Yin, president of MCR, and tonight I want to talk about just a few implications of the proposed budget. To begin, there's a lot to celebrate. One big victory for our SMOB Matt Post and I, and all the students of the county, is that I had the chance to serve on the Budget Steering Committee this year. To have a student member for the very first time is a big leap forward. It's been my honor to serve on this committee, and I'm looking forward to the continuation of this tradition with the next MCR president who will succeed me. As we know, though, there is still a lot of work ahead of us. A longtime priority for our county has been to eliminate the achievement gap, but there are efficiencies in this proposed budget that would harm our ability to do so. Some reductions aren't so scary, like savings of $136,000 thanks to lower bus fuel costs. Others, however, are cause for great concern. There are cuts to both ESOL staff and instructional materials. In AEI, or accelerated and enriched instruction, even a director position is cut. Since not everyone here may know what that is, this is the group that handles everything from making our magnet programs more diverse to ensuring kids at all schools, especially underserved populations, have access to advanced materials. The budget in brief tells us these efficiencies can be made without significant impact to the program. But are we really okay with even small setbacks? We're striving to meet the needs of all students, so we shouldn't be cutting funds for ESOL and AEI. Progress doesn't come free. Another issue that's been on the minds and hearts of families across the county is mental health. We must provide all students with the support they need. So the school psychologists and partnership with Every Mind covered in this budget are not optional. In fact, I think we can agree that this additional funding, which sums to less than $500,000, is a small step that we're very grateful for, but that must be extended. We need to make sure students are fully aware of the supports they have, that we hire enough counselors to handle both college or career readiness and student mental health, that our teachers can spot signs of depression and know how to help, that anyone struggling to be sober, regardless of their current alcohol or drug usage, can enroll in recovery school, and that we are proactive rather than reactive in addressing mental health at our schools. In doing so, we can save lives. In conclusion, we have high hopes for our county. We want to make sure all students can thrive here, that everyone has the support they need, and though my 10-year-old self would be shocked, that we can enjoy our time in schools. It all starts with the people here in this room today. We're going to have to keep pushing before the county council. I know the decisions of our Board of Education that arise from this hearing can make all the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next is Ananya Tadikonda.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Smith. My name is Ananya Tadikonda, and I have been a proud, lifelong student of MCPS and currently attend Richard Montgomery High School. I am fortunate to have the opportunity to serve MCPS high school students as the vice president of our countywide SGA and as a co-founder of our newest student leadership organization, Empower. I would like to begin by thanking you all for the wonderful opportunity you have given members of the MCPS community to voice their opinions by hosting this hearing tonight. The fiscal year 19 proposed operating budget represents hope, optimism, and a relentless fight to persist as a county that sets trends for communities around us through the excellent education we do our best to bring to every student. The incorporation of one free SAT or ACT for every 11th grade student has brought tremendous progress and movement towards ensuring that socioeconomic background does not determine ability to succeed or pursue higher education. Let's continue this movement by adding in resources for countywide fee waivers for AP exams that upperclassmen take. Having these waivers will tremendously impact the lives of students even after leaving MCPS, as they will be able to place out of college classes, pursue course options that are more tailored towards their interests, and even graduate early. Student advocacy groups across the county have been persistently working towards better mental health resource access across the county. I implore you to consider the additional implementation of wellness centers and hiring of more school counselors so that every student feels that they have access to the resources they need when they need them. For a 21st century education, students need technology. I ask you to consider further Chromebook and device rollout to every school so that we can implement rental programs for students who don't have access to technology at home to be able to do their homework and study the same way as their peers. Although this topic has been brought up a few times, I would like to urge you once again to reconsider your decision regarding AEI. As we aim to diversify our magnet programs, we need an AEI director to ensure that trends like the lack of students of color in the Blair CAP program and the lack of females in the Magruder Engineering program are identified and addressed immediately. MCPS is fortunate to be characterized as resource-rich. However, these resources are not always allocated equitably to every student. In the fiscal year 2019 operating budget, let us ensure that the schools that need it most are addressed so that every student is presented with equal opportunity to succeed. Whether it is the severe overcrowding at Neelsville or the lack of technology access at Springbrook, this budget should ensure that every student has access to resources so that we continue setting the trend as a school system that promotes equity across the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Crhistian Testa.
Dear Dr. Smith, President Durso, and members of the board. Hello, my name is Crhistian Testa, and I am currently a 7th grader at Eastern Middle School's Humanities program. Before that, I attended Lucy V. Barnsley's elementary school magnet program after starting there from Ritchie Park Elementary School. I would like you to know that schools need more help teaching students who learn fast, and they need more help than just putting more kids in magnet programs. At my neighborhood school, I was rarely challenged enough, and I was bored when I didn't have the few teachers who would give me fun and challenging work. For example, I had one teacher who would create additional classwork and homework assignments for me in reading and math. I was really frustrated when this stopped because I was learning new things. My teacher told my mom that he wasn't allowed to give me different work, and he was told that he needed to do the same for every student in his class. Then I had another math teacher who taught the same material to the whole class and would just give me an extra math sheet to complete but didn't instruct me on how to do it. Then she would group me with students who did not know how to do the math. Most days I would be taught things I already knew, and my teachers did not have anything more advanced to teach me. When I moved to a magnet program, I was finally able to learn more and enjoy school. If I had been forced to stay at my home school, I would have been deprived of the chances I had to learn new, interesting, and even exciting things for the past 4 years. I also would not have been able to learn with kids who were on my level. The little amount of kids that were on the same academic level as I were split among the other classes. For example, my friend Michael was one of my best friends at Ritchie Park, but the 4 years we were there, we were never in the same class. Michael was also ready to learn at a very high level, and he went with me to Barnsley's magnet program. Because we were never put in the same classroom at our home school, 2 teachers instead of 1 had to figure out how to teach us, and most years they didn't. Barnsley was a very good school experience for me, as I was finally placed with other high learners in the magnet program. I was able to achieve good grades in class, even though they were harder than the classes at Ritchie Park. I had a much better education, but at what cost? For starters, I had a much longer commute, more than twice that of Ritchie Park's. I had to give up friends at my old school, which was not so easy. This also goes for Eastern Middle School, my current school. At Julius West, my home middle school, I could have participated on the school's soccer team. At Eastern, I can't because it's too far away and I would get home too late. And since the commute is longer, I have to give up sleep by waking up earlier. Currently, I get home from school at around 4:15 every day. That is at least an hour and 15 minutes after school ends. It's also much harder to meet with my friends from Eastern to hang out or to study because we all live so far away from school and from each other. It would have been much, much more convenient if a kid's homeschool offered opportunities for higher level kids to learn together. In addition, more kids should have the chance to learn the higher level material if they were offered in the local schools and they didn't have to leave. They could learn with the higher level kids who are already in their school, and they wouldn't have to sacrifice so much just to get the right education. But for that to happen, teachers like my teachers at Ritchie Park need more help choosing materials for higher learners and running their classrooms so that all students can learn new things. I hope the school system will support putting more high-level programs or classes in all the schools and not just making magnets bitter. I think we need a strong central office for accelerated and enriched instructions to make this happen, not one made weaker by the proposed budget cuts. Thank you.
Next is Gillian Smith.
Dr. Smith, President Durso, and members of the board. My name is Gillian Smith, and I am an 11th grade student in the Richard Montgomery High School IB Magnet program. I'm here tonight to testify in support of the good work of the Division of Accelerated and Enriched Instruction and to urge you to reconsider the proposed budget cuts and position eliminations that I believe will undermine MCPS's ability to provide challenging educational opportunities for all students. I would like to make 3 points tonight. The first is that students who need the challenge of enriched and accelerated assignments and classes exist at every school in the county. I have been very fortunate to study in application and magnet programs in elementary, middle, and high school, but at every school I've attended, I've met students who were not in the magnet programs but needed more challenge than they were getting. Only 3% of MCPS students get into the magnet programs, and even if that number were doubled, there would still be at least twice as many students who need challenge scattered across all the other schools. Providing those opportunities across more than 200 schools requires specific materials, plans, and especially teacher and staff training that only a countywide office can provide with any consistency or fairness. The AEI office has also been there to help countless individual families, including mine, and work with their schools to meet students' needs. My second point is that the magnet programs themselves have been really critical to my education and that of all my classmates. I went to a high-performing elementary school with an excellent principal and good teachers, and I was still bored out of my mind for most of my first 4 years of school. I'm told I was also really disruptive because I had nothing interesting to do so much of the time, but of course I don't remember that part. Not everyone needs to be in a magnet, but those of us who do really need the magnet programs to have the expert leadership and support that the AEI office has provided. As just one example, the IB specialist at my school currently works as part of the AEI team. As a result, in addition to supporting the IB programming generally, she's able to support the particular needs of the IB magnet students at RM. IB is a philosophy of learning, not a GT program. So in order to make the IB Magnet a challenging program for advanced students, the IB specialist needs the expertise of the only office in MCPS focused on the needs of highly able students. The AEI director has personally come to RM to support my school and my program, and even to help out one of my teachers who is teaching a new science curriculum. My third and final point is that without central office leadership on gifted education, GT students from schools with lots of other challenges will have the fewest opportunities compared to students at other schools. At Eastern Middle School, I had the privilege of meeting highly able students from a much larger area of Montgomery County than I would have met at my home middle school. But some of the friends that I made at Eastern did not continue into the application magnet high schools, but are studying instead at their local high schools. And I know that from talking to them, that without school leaders looking out for the needs of all students in those schools, the highest ability students tend to get overlooked when the teachers are trying their best to help struggling students. It isn't fair if a student's opportunities to take challenging classes are limited by which MCPS high school he or she happens to live by. But that's what will happen if there aren't county experts providing the teacher training and resources to make those classes happen at all schools. At least 20%, that's 1 out of every 5 of MCPS students, need accelerated and enriched instruction opportunities. That's at least 32,000 students. The existing AEI office has only 9 staff members supporting more than 200 schools and 13,000 teachers. Please don't make it even smaller. Thank you.
Next, we have Adiba Chowdhury. Nina Todd.
Dr. Smith, President Durso, and members of the board, good evening. My name is Todd, and I am a 12th grade student at Poolesville High School in the Humanities House. I'm here to testify in support of the Office of Accelerated and Enriched Instruction and urge you to reconsider the recent proposed budget cuts. I'm a beneficiary of AEI threefold. I'm currently a student in one of MCPS's accelerated programs and have been one for the past 7 years. I've championed and advocated for the application magnet programs for 4 years and have become familiar with hundreds of prospective students and parents. And I have spent the past 2 summers working in central office and having gotten to know the people of AEI quite well. I believe these cuts will significantly undermine our school district's ability to provide the proper accelerated education thousands of students need. MCPS needs an office exclusively dedicated to nurturing gifted and talented students. I'm a product of the gifted and talented education system here in MCPS. This is my 7th year in an accelerated program, and I feel lucky that I've been able to study at an accelerated pace since the 6th grade. At the elementary school level, when I was not in a magnet program, I felt out of place. I excelled but felt ostracized and different because of it. Once I got to the accelerated program, I felt at home in an environment of like-minded individuals. At both the middle and high school level, I have been provided with an education unlike any found across the county. There's no wonder that several of our magnets rank nationally for their rigor, and I'm personally proud of Poolesville for ranking as one of America's most challenging schools for several years in a row. Now, as a senior in high school, I've already received an acceptance for Stanford University and have confidently completed the rest of my college applications, a feat I could not have accomplished without the support of the magnet system and AEI by extension. Thank you. Thank you. I know my story is not unique. In my work with magnet applicants, I hear similar stories quite often. Places and application programs are valued mainly because of the unique experiences and opportunities its students will indubitably receive. Not only does AEI ensure the training and resources that add to this value to the application programs, but they enrich the educations of students and programs at their home school as well. I've also had the privilege of working with the AEI staff over the past 2 summers while interning here in Carver Educational Center. I've seen firsthand the kind of personal touch that's being put into the work there. That is something that is always in short supply. I'm concerned that the recommendation to cut the size of the AEI office will degrade the ability of MCPS to provide the dynamic and personal education I have received since the 6th grade. In my opinion, taking away any part of the gifted and talented system or its support will only result in diminishing MCPS's standing as an outstanding and admired educational system. Thank you.
Oranger.
President Dr. Durso, board members, Dr. Smith, and all the staffs, thank you for coming to this important hearing today. My name is Adam Lee, one of the Churchill class coordinator, substituting Neil Oranger using the same testimony material. I want to commend Dr. Smith for his vision to set forth this 2019 budget, starting with his proposal by addressing MCPS increasing enrollment growth. As we all know, for the 10th year in a row, our 160,000 student body has grown more than 2,000 every year, which is like one new high school every year. To offset these trends being replaced with our school systems, Dr. Smith also crafted this budget that will significantly boost staffing by nearly adding 200 new staff and teachers to the bodies, including the secondary staff and the ESOL and special education teachers. To address my cluster's highest priority, to limit class sizes inside our clusters, and in order to individualize students' needs and to do some early intervention to help the student on their growth. This budget does this by ensuring staff levels to keep pace of the influx of the new students. We do appreciate that. Now to pay these investments, MCPS also downsized some positions in the central office. This marks an interesting new strategy to shift some expertise and resources from the headquarters down to the local school. So our school principals, teachers, and aides knows more about our students compared to the central office. So I think this strategy has some merit. However, such an approach is not without controversies. MCCPTA also asked the board to help us to discern the budget's impact on specialized populations. I will inquire with 3 questions. First, the budget eliminates special education cluster supervisors who have served the liaisons to administrators, staff services, and the instructional staffs. Instead, more instructors will be hired for this new responsibility after the supervisors has been removed. So how will the special ed instructor receive enough help to support the students with the new setting? This is the first question. For the second question, another example where the budget cuts the central office AEI unit, you also should add about $400,000 to expand the enrichment studies and programs boosting to the centers and local schools. So will this shift away from the central office affecting the development of enrichment literacy curriculums for the local centers, and how to make sure the coming students going to the middle school can accept the changes that they can successfully succeed in the secondary schools. The third question, the budget also cuts 10 central office ESOL positions. That will also add about 32 ESOL teachers to local schools. So how does this intensify efforts to close the persistent opportunity gaps to improve academic excellence for all? So aside for these questions, our cluster is generally pleased with the budget proposal. But I also surveyed our cluster's principals and staff and PTA leaders. So here are some other particular observations. At the Bells Mill Elementary School, there's no on-site IT staff, and they need upgrades from the old permission board, printers, and staff, and their staff computers. So the second observations at the Potomac Elementary School, they are helpful to add a ESOL staff to their classroom, but the current 0.6 full-time equivalent has challenges meeting the wide ranges of the students' needs at all levels. Third, at the Hoover Middle Schools, inaccurate enrollment projections over the summers has been driven around 1,000 students, but actually the students has been sold above the level, but the MCPS has already cut the teacher positions. So how can this downsize can be remediated? So we recommend Dr. Smith to focus on the result of the classroom and look forward to working with you or board member and the staffs. To conclude, we also looking forward your full support to all the teachers at all the schools to guide all the students at all the levels to advance at least 1 year of academics of the social goals and academic goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, from the Springbrook Cluster, Tiona Rogers.
Mr. Durso, can we ask that people who didn't submit testimony drop it off with Mr. Kellie?
Sure. If we have presentations upcoming that have not submitted your testimony.
Good evening. Poolesville clusters of schools is smaller than most clusters, but we still need to provide the programs, staffing, and equipment that all the students of higher density clusters receive. Educational opportunities should be equal across the county. When cuts have been made over the past few years, our smaller schools were hit hard, so we're looking for restoration. Monocacy Elementary School needs the restoration of a full-time reading specialist, and Poolesville Elementary needs restoration of paraeducator hours and lunch and recess aid time. Poolesville Elementary School is growing. It was projected that the size of the school would be 389 when I testified in 2015. The operating budget at that time said our enrollment was declining. Our school has declined to 457 students and needs multiple positions to keep up with its growth. Class size has increased over the past few years. There are multiple studies on class size that state the importance of smaller class sizes. Small class sizes help achieve higher levels of student engagement, increases the ability to stay on task, and the opportunity for the teacher to better know the students in their class and can tailor these instructions specifically for their needs as an individual and not as a group. The observation by a STAR experiment found that in small classes, teachers could teach more and not be a manager. Also, like PES and MES, were older schools. And when those schools were built, it was built for smaller class sizes. So it's very hard to fit 31, 32 desks in a room that was really meant for 23. It's harder for kids to navigate. It's harder to set it up to make optimal instruction. Some studies of smaller schools have had one downside, and that is smaller schools usually aren't allowed a wide variety of classes and services to students, which is very true in Montgomery County and of the Poolesville cluster schools. But smaller schools have been attributed to better test scores, grades, and graduation rates. Tell me, and I'll forget. Show me, and I may remember. Involve me, and I'll understand, is a Chinese proverb. This is a key value of small class sizes, is involving all the students, not just a few here and there throughout the day. Large class sizes are conducive for telling, but not for involving. John Poole Middle School is smaller than most of the middle schools, but still deserves more robust course offerings and 2 full-time counselors. Students assigned to the half-time resource are forced to spend time with counselor that they do not have a relationship when the part-time counselor is not on duty. Poolesville High School. Poolesville High School understands that we're not on the list for renovation, won't be for a while. We disagree with that decision, but heard that there were things that could be done in lieu of the new school. We would like to start by making room in the budget. I'm not picky if it's the CIP or operating budget, for a new auditorium seating and carpeting, new floors and bleachers and lighting in the gymnasium, new bathrooms in the gymnasium foyer, and cameras around our athletic fields and stadium. A couple of weeks ago, a pipe burst in one of the classrooms. MCPS was quick to come out and make repairs. The good news is that even though a lot of our schools has pipes that are encapsulated by by that, the pipes that were in this room were not. But the bad news is all the computers and the photo quality printers were destroyed. They need to be replaced. So please keep this in mind. If our school is off the list for innovation, there are needs that must be met on a yearly basis, not every 5 years or 10, but a yearly basis. We believe that the outcome of enrollment-based decisions continue to be scrutinized for smaller schools to ensure that their resulting decisions does not unintentionally impact programming unfairly. We must continue to offer the same core curriculum and services to all MCPS students regardless of the school size.
Thank you. From the Watkins Mill Cluster, Vicky Miller.
Good evening, President Durso, members of the board, and Dr. Smith. The Watkins Mill Cluster thanks you for your continued recognition and support for high-impact schools, and in particular, the support and concern shown to us this past year. Our written testimony goes into detail about the issues our schools and communities face in the Watkins Mill Cluster. Tonight, due to the limits of time, I will only address a few of the issues that are significant to the Watkins Mill Cluster. All of Watkins Mill Cluster schools are high-impact schools. High farms, high ESOL, high mobility rates. Most of our schools are over capacity or close to over capacity, which speaks to the sheer number of students that need highly qualified teachers, paraeducators, and school counselors. Given the diverse needs of the Watkins Mill students population, our teachers are not only educators, but the parental figures, counselors, confidants, mentors, and a jack of all trades to their students. We support the continued effort to hire additional highly qualified teachers and support staff in order to reduce the student-to-staff ratio at all school levels. Having more hands on deck in each classroom equates to reaching and teaching more children. We also recommend thinking about incorporating high-impact teacher training to help to support teachers in high-impact schools for the hope that maybe we can retain our teachers, because each year we lose so many teachers. The social and emotional needs of our students cannot be met by our teachers and paraeducators alone. The school counselors monitor and support the academic, social, emotional, behavioral needs of all students. Staffing allocations for counselors is based on student numbers. It's a simple formula. but social and emotional needs aren't simple, especially for children in our cluster, many of whom face a host of issues: poverty, language barriers, safety concerns, substance abuse. Please consider the immense role our counselors play in the success of our schools and consider increasing that number. We understand the plan to reduce the staffing in central office, which initially might be applauded until one sees which offices are affected. Although we completely support having more boots on the ground in our schools, we are very concerned with the potential unintended consequences of this plan. Having dedicated offices as a resource for parents is essential, not to mention that instructional assistants will have their workloads doubled. We are concerned that this will also widen the achievement and opportunity gaps. Areas with high social capital will make do with tutors, PTSA offered classes, or other outside resources, but our cluster can't. It is severely lacking due to flight of social capital from our communities. It has left our schools with fewer resources and opportunities for our students. How will this loss of central office staff affect schools? How can we be assured of consistency to all students across the county? The Watkins Mill Cluster supports prioritizing the effort to improve outcomes for all students. But all means all can easily become one size fits all, which does not fit the needs of individual students. We support Dr. Smith's proposed recovery education program and urge you to continue this program to support students in recovery from any substance use disorder. We believe the recovery education program should be open to both those who have substance abuse diagnosis and those at risk of addiction. The opioid epidemic is tragic and is skyrocketing, and not only in Montgomery County, but in the nation. To my knowledge, our cluster struggles with the use of many substances, not just opioid. Any substance use can lead down to the path of trying other drugs or becoming a dealer to support that habit. I personally know 2 recent MCPS alumni grads and 1 current student that this program could have avoided at least the criminal. They're all on the criminal justice system, and hopefully this program could have avoided that. In summary, we are proud of our teachers, our staff, and of course our amazing students. Yet it often feels like we're alone and lost, with each school being an island, facing each day with daunting challenges and shrinking resources. We worry that the elimination and restructuring of the departments in central office will further magnify this feeling of being alone. Furthermore, students in our cluster are capable of and demand higher level classes. They need more hands-on experiences and increased internships. MCPS needs to focus efforts on attracting and hiring and retaining the best teachers for the schools that needs them the most. Please continue to support the Watkins Mill Cluster Project and the development of new community partnerships that work directly with our students. Thank you for your continued support, and we look forward to our cluster visit in April. Thank you.
Thank you. From the Wootton Cluster, Kellie Schoolar Reynolds.
Good evening, Dr. Smith, Board President Durso, and Board of Education members. Thank you for the opportunity to present testimony on behalf of the Wootton Cluster on the fiscal year 2019 operating budget. We sympathize with your difficult task. In a climate of difficult funding, sounds like it gets worse every day or every week, we need a budget that manages continued growth, drives academic progress for all students, and prepares all students for their future. This goal is particularly challenging in a county as large and as diverse as Montgomery County. We understand why you need to include program efficiencies in the budget. You don't have a choice. The proposed budget includes a significant restructuring of central office support that allows more school-based resources, and we appreciate that. On the positive side, we anticipate the changes in the structure of the Office of School Support and Improvement from separate elementary and secondary organizations to the cross-functional organizations may help with continuity as students and families progress through their years in MCPS. We're pleased that critical school positions are maintained, such as staff development teachers and counseling positions. It would be hard to implement the new initiatives, meet expectations, and support teachers and students without these positions. However, the cluster does have thoughts regarding other areas affected by the change in central office. We ask that you consider these comments from our cluster as you finalize the budget and the resulting implementation plan. And this probably won't be new information. You've heard it several times tonight. First, with the elimination of the special education cluster supervisor positions, the instructional specialists who serve the majority of special education students have a wide range of job duties and will report to directors who may not have special education expertise. It appears the special education resource teachers will no longer have a point of contact outside of OSSI, which may make it difficult to adequately assist students with complex issues. Principals and teachers need the support to address the needs of all special education populations. The next area of concern is the reduction in the Division of Accelerated and Enriched Instruction staff. The division is responsible for programs at all levels, and it affects the quality of education across MCPS. We're concerned that the lack of a centralized, director-led division that oversees vital functions for many of our students and provides a central point of contact for the community will decrease services important to all schools. These services include development of instructional strategies, support for talent development, individualized support for highly able students, and professional development. We also request continued support for professional development in general. Without it, teachers cannot challenge and maximize the potential of students at all levels. Another important area is mental health support and counseling. The high ratio of students to counselors often prevents counselors from having adequate time to spend with students. Investing in emotional well-being is not only important in its own right, it is also essential for academic success and long-term development. We're grateful for the strategic priority to launch a recovery education program. We urge the board to make enrollment available for any teen at risk. We are grateful for these students' needs will once again be served by our county and is giving these teens their best chance at recovery. Finally, some of our schools have persistent HVAC issues. The problems are particularly frustrating as construction projects are delayed. We ask that the operating budget component of the HVAC maintenance be adequate to meet the needs in our county. Thank you for all that you do to continually improve Montgomery County schools. We ask that you consider our testimony and that of others testifying tonight as you make your decisions.
Our final cluster presentation from the Richard Montgomery cluster, Monique Ashton.
Good evening, board, MCPS staff, parents, and students. I want to thank you. My name is Monique LaRock Ashton, and I'm honored to serve as the cluster coordinator for the Richard Montgomery community. I also wanted to offer an emphatic thank you. We have gotten to know each other quite a bit over the last few months and weeks, and I think we've met with almost each and every one of you, and I can say you've been so thoughtful and so generous with your time. So I know your job's not easy, and we appreciate it. I also wanted to echo the comments of my fellow parents and students who have and will testify regarding the operating budget. We do have some concerns for special education, ESOL, and AEI. I also, just in judging from my own experience on working on health disparities and equity issues, you have to be very careful when you start to decentralize things, and there isn't a strategist or a point of accountability. So I would recommend that perhaps you look at a pilot to see if this really works before you fully move into a change of that magnitude, because equity is tremendously important, particularly in our time. We need more opportunities for advanced learners in our neighborhood schools. We need to continue to support magnet programs for advanced learners. We also need central office staff who can help make sure that our schools are properly implementing county-wide educational initiatives. AEI is instrumental in the continued development of our IB programs, which are important to our cluster. And without a strong central office, we worry these things will not happen. I did mention that we did get a chance to get to know each other, and I wanted to thank you specifically for the development of Richard Montgomery Elementary School number 5. I see Eric Wilson here. Shout out to you as well. We've been working very closely together to bring on a new principal, and we're so excited that this is actually happened after a decade of advocacy. It's a really good example of what happens when we collaborate together. We also want to thank you for building out the capacity to 740 students. With thanks, I do have a couple of requests. We would like to see that you potentially consider adopting the visiting Chinese teacher program, which we currently have at College Gardens Elementary at the new RMES number 5. This program has helped all the students of CGES have exposure to Chinese instruction, so we don't have a school within a school. It's our understanding that the cost of each of the teachers is in the $3K range, just for visa processing, and I have personally hosted one of these teachers and can say that they are a fantastic way to stretch our budget but also offer language instruction. We also want to continue our request for IB. I know that may not happen this year, but please keep it on your radar. I did want to spend some time talking about Twinbrook as well as Richard Montgomery High School. Thank you for your recent visit to our school, to Twinbrook. We have seen firsthand the beauty and strength of this community. Unfortunately, the structure of the building does not match the quality, strength, and tenacity of staff, parents, and students. It's now becoming an issue of safety, an issue of equity, and social justice. We know that it's not in the current plans to move forward with the RevX, but I think we want your review. We want your suggestions. We've been asking for this. It's not ADA compliant. Last year there were gas leaks, and over the holiday there was a pipe burst. And here's an excerpt from a concerned parent. As of last week, at least 2 of the 3rd grade classrooms were still displaced and using the media center as their classroom. This limited use of the media space for the entire school has been a challenge. My understanding is that the pipes that burst were connected to the boiler system and contained very hot water. Thankfully, this occurred during the holiday when no one was injured. What would happen if they were in school? My son's classroom had 4 inches of water, and the teacher lost a lot of instructional materials. This concern is now moving to avoiding mold because of the moist air. During the boundary study, many parents and you all expressed interest in a keen focus on supporting students who receive farm assistance to achieve their highest potential. We ask that you continue to keep your focus on Twinbrook. As a former low-income student, I know firsthand that school can be the great equalizer, but it must be safe, the environment must be conducive to learning, and the books and media center must be accessible because some students don't have that at home. Twinbrook is in need of more than just fresh paint. If an RevX is not possible, please convene a team to look at the building and reassess what can be done in the interim. Regarding Richard Montgomery High School, I know that we're not moving forward with the build-out of the expansion there, but we need your help. RM is growing to over 432 students over capacity. They have already 2 portables and converted 5 computer labs to classrooms. To give you an example and flavor, in terms of astronomy, was taught in English classrooms during open periods. They did not allow for lab setup time, use of space to prepare for instruction. One of the tech computer labs that we're now using as a classroom has no sinks and no gas hookup. And so what's happening is we don't have safe environments for our kids to be learning science. And what will that do for our county, who's really focused on increasing STEM participation? Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you both. Next is Jane Lerman.
Dr. Smith, staff, Board of Education members, thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Jane Learman, and I'm the PTSA president of Poolesville High School. I'd like to express my support and a few concerns regarding the superintendent's 2019 operating budget. First, I'd like to thank the BOE and Dr. Smith for the reinstatement of the full-time administrator in the 2018 budget. We're making a similar safety request this year, as Poolesville High School urgently needs 1 additional full-time security guard. We base this request on 2 facts. First, the ratios regarding security staffing are perplexing. Poolesville has 3 full-time security guards, and Seneca Valley has 5. 2016-2017 enrollment data shows that Seneca Valley has only 23 more students than Poolesville. The at-a-glance reports showing this data are attached to my testimony. Second, security needs to be both inside and outside the school. During student arrival in the morning, we need 1 staff member in the parking lot and another in the bus loop, which is true in all the high schools, basically. But our unique scheduling requires some juggling, so our 3rd staff member doesn't arrive until 8 a.m. But even without our longer day, 3 security guards are not enough. When someone gets sick, coverage is dangerously low with only 2 security staff members. This is a serious safety concern. Please consider this request in your budget workshops discussion. I'd like to express my concerns regarding the changes in the Office of Accelerated and Enriched Instruction. Last week, Seneca Valley High School requested robust 9th and 10th grade IB courses, a position that we support. Seneca Valley would greatly benefit from the expertise of the AEI office. There are other questions like who's going to address the needs of the expanded elementary center programs and evolving secondary magnets, and who will help the local schools develop programs for highly able students. On a more upbeat note, I'm really excited about this budget because Poolesville High School can be an active partner to fulfill goals expressed by Dr. Smith. On December the 19th, one slide jumped out at me describing innovative CTE programs. Poolesville High School and the community at large are uniquely positioned to realize this goal, particularly in the areas of agricultural, education, and aviation. Our well-established global ecology programs, STEM Magnet, and location in the Ag Reserve provide a ready-made foundation for agricultural education. Our STEM programs would complement high-tech aviation programs. Moreover, we have the space for state-of-the-art simulators and other academic structures. Please consider partnering with us to fulfill these goals. It's a win-win for students who are pursuing these careers. To quote Dr. Smith's blog, Poolesville is all in with all these priorities. Thank you for your time, and please consider my comments during future budget discussions.
Thank you, Lemar. And for those that might be curious why a student is at this portion of the program, there had been a request because he had a previous commitment. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Dr. Smith, President Durso, and members of the board, my name is Lemar. I'm a 10th grade magnet student at the Blair Magnet Program. I've actually spoken here before in support of the magnet program and how it helped me. I understand that funds are being reduced to the schools next year and that the school board needs to decide how to spend less money and still provide excellent education to all kids. I wanted to let you know again how important it was for me to get the advanced education opportunities I received. I have attended both magnet and non-magnet programs, and I can speak to what it was like in both. My early elementary school days were okay because we had many different levels of reading and math groups, and I was always grouped with the more advanced kids. However, I was not always completely engaged. In 4th and 5th grade, I was in the Highly Gifted Center at Cold Spring Elementary School. This program was eye-opening for me. For the first time, I was with a group of kids who thought like I did. We learned at a pace that kept me focused and interested and learning new things every day. I then attended my home middle school, Cabin John. These 3 years were very different. I was older and ready for more challenging work, especially after 2 years at the Gifted Center. However, few things I was asked to do in school challenged me. My classes moved at a slow pace. In math, we would spend 2 or 3 days learning something I had already picked up on the first day. My science classes also tended to be tedious, as I had already been reading and studying sciences like physics, online, and from books for many years. I discussed taking a chemistry class at Churchill High School because I knew some of my peers were taking advanced math and language classes there. I didn't see any reason why I couldn't take an advanced science class too. Eventually, in 8th grade, I was allowed to take honors chemistry at Churchill High School in the morning before my day at Cabin John started. Not only did I get an A, I ended up helping a lot of the 9th and 10th graders as well. I know that being able to take an advanced class when I was ready helped me to be academically challenged while at Cabin John. While I really liked the chemistry class, I wish there had been a way at my home middle school to have gotten more in-depth work and to be placed in classes with other kids who learned like me. Next year, I am taking AP Macro and Microeconomics, so if you need any help budgeting, let me know. Until then, I ask that you please make sure that all kids are able to get the challenging and in-depth work they need every day, whether in a magnet school or not, to make sure that they are placed in classes with kids who think and learn like they do, and to make sure that all kids are learning every day. Thank you for your time tonight.
Joanna Fellows, thank you.
Hello. I teach, I'm sorry, give me just a moment. Theater and film are 2 of the 10 preps that I teach at Seneca Valley High School. So when I heard there were cuts to the arts budget, in musical theater, when someone's overcome with emotion, they have to sing. How does the superintendent, council, and board of education think fine arts don't need administration? We need a content specialist because the best of us is making just a mess of it. We are stressing it because no administrator in our school knows all our trouble, and no one else listens when we call out on the double that we need a new curriculum. We are sick of them. Professional development will help your teachers stick with them because it's hard to be an island when you're teaching 10 preps. And to get any materials, it takes 10 steps. We've got no PLCs, no data points. Please, we're just trying to survive. So I beg you on my knees. And allocations needed to ensure that we've succeeded in bringing the fine arts to all our students because they need it. And they need the proper funding too. Because, sir, I'm telling you, you can't make something stick if you have got no glue. If we want to meet with Comar, then, sir, we've got some work to do. It's not going to happen if this job gets split in two. To give a 0.5 to oversee all 200 schools is darn right near impossible. Please treat us like professionals. Save our content specialist. Because the arts bring out the best of us. And there's a million things that arts can do. Support arts now. Support arts now. You talk about mental health, you talk about community. The arts are where it's at for influencing unity. Our kids deserve the best because they're in MCPS. But your teachers can't teach if they are unduly stressed. In our own schools, there's no one to collaborate. We need a content leader to elaborate on how we can teach ESOL and special ed and IB in the same room. Take away our lifeline. Push programs to certain doom. Professional development days, there's only one. We've got a year, and in this budget, it's cut in half. So, sir, that makes me fear that your teachers who are on the ground running won't even know the regulations. No, they'll never see it coming. We gotta have a leader, and we gotta have some plans to elevate the arts because they make good citizens, because we're not just teaching students, but young women and men. Don't want to be repetitious, but I'll say this part again. Save our content specialist because the arts bring out the best of us. And there's a million things that arts can do. Support arts now. Support arts now. Thank you.
That is a tough testimony to follow.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Dr. Smith, President Durso, and member of the board. I'm Lan Lin, and chair of MCCPTA Give the Child Committee. We have a big community with students consisting of over 35% of the MCPS student body, and they are from all racial, ethnic, socioeconomic backgrounds. We have hearts for all students, all of them. We are deeply concerned of losing half of the AEI staffs and its director. I will elaborate the importance of having a fully funded AEI for 3 aspects. First, AEI is the only effective channel between MCPS and our community. Our students have diverse needs, and there are numerous programs and pathways, but the community need in-depth information. Moreover, imperfections are in programs and pathway implementations. AEI is the most accessible MCPS office for responding to our community's questions, concerns through phone calls, emails, personal meetings, and most importantly, school visits. The easy accessibility and high availability of AEI is crucial to achieve high-level operational performance. We cannot afford to lose this bridge. Second, AEI intervention is crucial for efficacy and efficiency. At one local school, parents and PTA were concerned of putting all students in an accelerated path. The practice risks the consequences that on-grade level student would struggle and the advanced student would experience a watered-down program. At another local school, parents and PTA were concerned of dividing a full classroom of accelerated program students and evenly distributing them into 4 on-grade classrooms. The practice would artificially overload classroom teachers with 2 sets of distinct curriculum contents and materials each and every day. AEI subject matter experts' opinions and their interventions have been vitally important in resolving both cases. At the end, in those 2 schools, hundreds of students, including on-grade and advanced students, get their needs met, and teachers won't be overloaded. There are many examples of successful AEI interventions at elementary and secondary schools. We desperately need all personnel in AEI who dare to take the leadership and to make the decisive call at a crisis moment. Third, the strategic level decision of abandoning the successful model of AEI and quickly splitting their responsibilities among multiple offices is questionable and imposing great risks. There are many questions. Here are 2. Which office will be the accessible and highly available bridge between our community and MCPS? Why not expand the successful model of AEI and make the overall support structure more effective? We strongly believe pursuing efficacy and efficiency based on the principle of inclusion is a viable path for serving the need of diverse and growing student body. We strongly recommend the leadership to take an extensive look into the successful model of AEI to fully appreciate how it has and must continue to benefit MCPS students. Finally, we do appreciate for you taking the daunting task to create the budget proposal. We do embrace the superintendent and board's vision on expanding programs related to CTE, STEM, EOS, language programs, as well as the choice study response plans. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Lin. Lehman.
Dr. Smith, President Durso, and the Board of Education members, good evening. My name is Lehman, and I am currently serving as a GT liaison in Lakewood Elementary School PTA. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about the budget tonight. On behalf of Lakewood PTA, I appreciate your effort in putting together the budget. As a community, we are deeply concerned about the loss of AEI. I have to come forward to have a big shout out for AEI and its director, Ms. Meredith Casper. They have always been a great support to our school. In Lakewood, half of our students are identified as gifted and talented students in the 2nd grade. At the beginning of 2016, MCPS encouraged all elementary schools to enlarge the compacted math students' body to make sure everyone succeeds in math, which was a wonderful idea for all students to get the opportunities. But that was also very difficult for Lakewood to figure out how to address our diverse needs of the students, since half of our students need accelerations and the other half need a solid foundation based on grade level instruction. Parents had different opinions too. Some parents wanted less stressed curriculum, while the others want more challenges to their kids. After months of discussion, there was still no solution satisfying all stakeholders. Starting from April 2016, AEI and Ms. Casper have been instrumentally helped our school through meetings and conversations with parents. With the tremendous help of AEI and with the leadership of our new principal, Ms. Berner, and the new OSSI director, Ms. Favorite, our school successfully implemented 2 Math 4 classes and 2 Math 4-5 classes since September 2016. We include more students without lowering the bar, but we welcomed more students around the cutoff. Our teachers keep evaluating students to make sure they are on the track. The Math 4-5 classes are always open to students when they are ready to move upward. Our teachers help Math 4 students to get prepared for Math 4-5 when they show potential and interest. There are also groups with differentiated instructions inside all the classes. All above, dynamic strategies guarantee our students to get the best match curriculum in time. How AEI helped Lakewood in Math 4-5 is just one of the many cases how AEI helped local schools. AEI is the effective office bringing solid results that benefit all students, including both highly able students and on-grade level students. As a parent and a PTA member, I can clearly see that keeping or even growing AEI is in the best interest of all students and all schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Guan and Julie Yang.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Smith, and MCPS staff. My name is Guan, and this is Ms. Julie Yang. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all tonight. We are members of APA Student Achievement Action Group, and we're here to speak to you regarding two issues. The first one is the language, cultural, and institutional barriers that immigrant families faces when they're participating in their children's school life and community. So immigrant parents have limited understanding of MCPS policies and procedures. They have limited language proficiencies, and staffs may be unaware of the cultural sensitivities, such as stigma surrounding mental health in APA communities. While we understand that the constraints in the FY19 operating budget, APASAAG recommend for the following for that particular budget. The first one is to increase the visibility of existing so-called parent community coordinators in APA communities and schools. APA communities underreport issues such as bullying due to the aforementioned barriers, and it is critical that APA parent PCCs are visible and available to assist the APA communities. The second recommendation is to dedicate existing PCCs within the Office of the Student and Family Support and Engagement for commonly spoken APA languages such as Chinese, Korean, Hindi, and Vietnamese, and other languages. The PCCs are the closest to the students and the families in MCPS. They are the face of MCPS for many immigrant families. So that's the first issue. For the second issue, I'll pass the mic off to Ms. Julie Yang.
Okay. Hi. Due to the limited time, I will just ask a few questions about the AEI office. The APASAAG was not involved in the budget process, so we seek answers to the following questions. First of all, with the reduction of staff and budget for the AEI office, who will be responsible now for the identification of the students that's required by the state law? Secondly, how would this reduction impact the twice as gifted students population and also all our IB programs? Thirdly, how would this impact the already training that has begun for the enriched literacy program in the elementary schools? And fourthly, who is now responsible for the middle and high school magnet programs, IB programs, and signature programs? Now, MCPS have a wonderful teaching staff, and some teachers are always willing to do more. But without a coordinating office, are the teachers prepared to take on more? Are they required to take on more? Do they have the proper tools to take on more? And without a coordination, without a whole system plan, then who's going to collaborate between curriculum supervisors? Who's going to coordinate the sharing of the best practices? So there are many issues that are the concern of a large population within NCPS, and we we hope that we have answers, and then our students, all students' needs will be served by this great school district. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. Next is Ting Mei Chau.
Good evening, Dr. Smith and all board members. Thank you for the opportunity to testify tonight. And just bear with me a few more with strong actions of all the testifiers at the last group. So just bear, I know it's late at night. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm the chair of the Asian Pacific American Student Achievement Group. I just have two colleagues that's presented before me. So my issue would be very similar. So we cut it and less formal, although I prepared my testimony. You can read it in the email. First of all, we actually really thankful as a new group. We've been only formed by a year, and also thanks to O'Neill and Jill to give the idea to set up this group. And we invited to many working studies, like boundary studies, CTE studies, reports, choice reports. But unfortunately, for some reason, we're not invited for the budget committee discussion about the FY19 budget. So with that, we're not aware of all the changes, and you can see a lot of concerns coming out of that. No information was shared beforehand. So we would be very grateful if in the future our group would be invited in for the budget discussion and the budget formulation process. So if you need a point of contact, you can always look at my email. And also Elaine Chang also is one of the one that heading up the three groups. So we are trying to work very closely with LSAC and AASAC to be actually have a cross-group discussions about how to bring the community together to meet the diverse needs of the MCPS. So we very much appreciate the opportunity for further participation. Second, you probably all see tonight the major people here, especially now, are probably all the AEI. If you haven't been sick of hearing AEI yet, I would say one more time, right? My question about AEI is that would this one do more harm than accomplishment? And from that point of view, I would like to talk about quality and quantity. And I listen to all the concerns, especially you all go to county council about the budget and the limitation constraint. With the MCPS student enrollment going up, the quantity dictates the cost needs, right? So the quantity. However, if you want to meet the quantity and the cost needs, you need to maintain that quality of the education, the brain of MCPS. Only if you can keep that quality, then you shouldn't have much problem to raise revenue. Because as taxpayers and the parents, public school serve very noble needs. At the same time, it is a product of consumer to the parents. So if the quality is like iPhone, then I think a lot of parents and taxpayers would be very happy to pay for that revenue. So I urge you to think about how you keep those diverse needs, but also make it to very diverse and profound quality of the education. And AEI is one of that very flagship and brand to the MCPS. So we would like to keep that, and I hope you reconsider your formulation, the policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tao Chen.
Dear President Dorso, distinguished members of the board, and Dr. Smith, thank you very much for the opportunity tonight. My name is Tao Chen. I'm representing Chinese American Parents Association. We really appreciate the hard work in this difficult budgeting process. But I'm here to voice out the two concerns our community has. The first is a 40% cut to AEI. The AEI office develops programs to support the 40% or 60,000 highly able students. And the students' testimony already demonstrates that these students need the enrichment, need the acceleration, emotionally, socially, and academically. MCPS recognizes this as a high priority. Through center programs, homeschool enrichment, GTLD programs, AEI has been very instrumental in this process. With the effort to develop more talents in the underrepresented population, this body of highly able students will only grow, and we'll need a larger AEI office instead of a smaller one. The AEI is critical to the success of the highly demanded center programs and magnet programs. In the choice study, one universal message is that we have many talents, we don't have enough seats. We really appreciate MCPS' effort to expand the access. 4 new centers have been established, and they need AEI to help them support the implementation of the gifted program. They need AEI to help them identify teachers and implement the professional development. So the downsizing of AEI is going to hurt the future of these new centers. While we share the vision that every educator should take responsibility for meeting the needs of our highly able students, the question is how to get there. Who will provide the education to all the educators to meet the needs of the gifted learners? Who will propagate the existing best practices to all schools? Who will coordinate issues across all schools? Who will ensure the quality of GT education in every classroom? To answer these challenges, we need a stronger AEI, not a weaker AEI. We are shocked to see the big reduction to AEI instead of the much-needed growth. And Dr. Dawkins' reflection on the decentralized system make me even more worried. So I hope the board could reconsider the decision of AEI and provide adequate resources for the gifted education. Second, I would like to talk about the Chinese-speaking parent community coordinator positions. They were cut from 2 to 0.4 last year. And what do we see this year? We actually see many parents contacting us for problems such as mental health, bullying. They need help to communicate with schools, but they do not know the availability of such resources. We urge you to restore and promote access to these positions. Thank you very much. We are looking forward to the work sessions, and we are going to continue advocating for MCPS at the county level, state level, or even national level. Thank you.
Thank you. As we finish up with our last round of questions, I'm going to ask board members also if you have any closing thoughts when it comes your turn, please do so. Mr. Post?
Thank you. Just a small note about Mr. Coleman's testimony. I was at Gaithersburg Middle School the other day, and when they told me they had a pool in the building, I thought they were pulling a prank on me. It's a great opportunity that we have there, and I really do appreciate you raising that concern because I have not heard that before. Just in general, though, thank you all for coming out, for sticking with us to the end. I hope you will join us in Rockville and in Annapolis as we fight for the funding of this budget and investment in education in general. So thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Mr. Post. Ms. Ortman-Faust.
Yes, I was looking for the testimony about, was it a Chinese PPW, PCC, Parent Community Coordinator? What is the savings on that, cutting that position?
I don't know of a reduction where we're cutting a PCC.
Oh, so you had, oh, okay.
I'm not aware of that either, but I can check into that.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, we'll get a staff follow-up
we can
on
look
that.
look at
Yeah.
that rather than have a debate here.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Orman-Faust, we will
go back and show the reorg of when we established the new office and how PCCs were transitioned to support schools. So we'll go back and give that information back to the board.
And also the content specialist for fine arts, what is the cost of that position?
So what the question is we reallocated and realigned our instructional specialist positions across all of OCIP, right. Office of Curriculum Instruction. So numerous positions were realigned, and right. One of the positions you're talking about was realigned a piece of that position. Are you saying if it were realigned back, what would the cost be?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Ms. Evans?
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight for all of your thoughtful and creative testimony.
Ms. O'Neill?
Well, I want to apologize to everybody for coughing my way through the evening, and I thank Ms. Evans for her cough drops. They didn't help very much.
You haven't seen all of the cough drops up here. It's like a cough
and
drop
I
outlet.
also want to say we've had a number of people talk about capital budget issues, and I just want to say that we are beginning the work starting February 23rd at the Policy Management Committee on policy FAA, the Long Range Facility Planning Policy, and FKB, Sustaining and Modernizing Schools, so that we will be moving to the key facility indicators. And many of the issues raised about equity, about age of buildings, taking a whole new look at how we do our not having a 20-year list. So while tonight is about operating budget, we did have reference about capital budget, and so starting February 23rd, we will begin that work on the policy.
Thanks, Ms. O'Neill. Dr. Daka?
I think I've had enough to say tonight, but I want to thank all of you for being here and staying so long, and thank you to staff over there on that side. We really appreciate everything that you've been doing. Especially Miss Diamond. You didn't make some of these decisions, you're just explaining them to us. Thank you very much.
Ms. Mondrowski.
Yeah, I too want to say thank you to everybody for coming out, testifying, being here late, thanking staff for all the work that they do. I wanted to thank Mr. Coleman for coming out and speaking again. We've had many conversations about this aquatic center, and my only question about that would be about the information about the grant, and do we know how long lasting that is? Is it they have to reapply every year, or if we could get a little bit of information about that, that'd be. We can get that for you.
We can get that information. There are numerous aspects to it beyond the grant and how that's funded, including staffing that's required, because you can't use regular PE class size, but we can get that information.
Okay, that'd be great, because I was under the impression that we had started using it during the day, but so what do we can find out about it? All right, thank you very much.
Ms. Dixon.
So I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening as well. Yesterday would have been the 89th birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., and he spoke often about being a drum major for justice, and I want to thank you all for being a drum major for the education of your children this evening. It is really important to us to hear from all of you. And we will be back here again, probably not so late on Thursday at 5 p.m. for an operating budget work session. So we invite you to join us. Well, not all of you, but we'll be here. I think we'll be in the boardroom. Is that correct? That's correct. Yes. So thank you very much. And drive safely, okay? All right.
And we only will not be as late because we're starting earlier.
Yes, right.
Closing thoughts, Dr. Smith?
I want to thank you all for coming out tonight, and I just want to say there are a lot of...
If when we conclude, if you wanted to talk to someone, but we're really not going to entertain additional questions now. Dr. Smith?
Just going to thank everyone for their testimony and advocacy, and there are a lot of competing interests across 1,100,000 residents and 61,500 students, and I understand that. And you know, what we have to do is make sure we reach all children. And I do have to say, our last speaker tonight, I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay. Thank you, folks. Safe trip home, and we are adjourned.